Okay, so I will call it a success. Basically, the chip mounts to this custom aluminum plate that I built. You can see it's got two little ears on it. Those essentially hook to the bracket that holds the two white ceramic insulators that hold the original halogen bulb. You just have to bend them over to the side. Now, my worry here is that there's not enough heat sink for this chip, even though I did use thermal paste between the chip and the aluminum plate, which will dissipate heat great, but after that aluminum plate there's really not much dissipation because it goes into that bracket. A little bit is touching the reflector here as you screw this down, but not much, and the reflector's so thin I don't think it's going to absorb a lot of heat anyway. So I will say this is a 50-watt halogen chip, and the actual housing back here does get warm. I would say what would be equivalent to a 50-watt bulb inside the housing. So it very much, without measuring anything, I would say that yes, it's definitely putting out 50 watts of heat. So that's a lot. And if it's actually getting to this outside chamber, I'm a little bit worried that I am not taking enough heat away from that chip fast enough. So that's just kind of like, well, it's obviously, it's not direct heat transfer to the outside. This would be great if there was some way to get it to actually mount to this housing, but you really can't because it's so far back there, and I didn't want to recess this thing any further. I wanted to use the same lens here, and I'm glad I did. The lens is great, especially with the bulb position where it is. So to go back any further would suck. Now, I possibly could build a thicker aluminum plate that instead of bolting to the halogen bracket, again, the bracket that supported the halogen bulb, instead of bolting it to the halogen bracket, the aluminum plate would be thick enough to actually put some screws back here and use some thermal paste to get it to start sinking to this aluminum housing. That would be the ideal thing to do. Now, I will say this. If you're doing this and you want something equivalent to a 500-watt halogen bulb, definitely go with the 50 watts. Anything less, okay, so if I'm to tell you how much light this puts out, it's very much equivalent to the same lumens as a 500-watt bulb. However, as the heat sink starts to get warm and the chip starts to get warm, the light intensity diminishes about 10%. So that tells me that I'm actually not pulling enough heat away from the chip. Now, will this chip last because of its lack of heat sink? I'm not sure. That's for time to tell. I mean, I suppose I could let this thing run for 24 hours and see if it burns out or whatever, but I did both of them. And you can see the original wires just come right around the outside. And this is a 120 volt chip, so it has its own voltage regulator on it, and brings it down to, I think, like 36 volts or something. I forget. But anyway, so it's really nice. There's no extra wiring to do. You just got to stretch those puppies around there and make it happen, see? So the lens isn't distorted. Everything's great. I didn't have to bend anything stupid. I'll give you a little show here, see how they work. I do know that the light diminishes about 10% because I left this running for a half an hour and then turned this baby on, and this appeared to be 10% brighter initially. And the same is true. So if I run this guy for half an hour and start this guy, it's about 10% brighter initially. So what you see coming out of the gate here is going to be its full brightness, but don't rely on that. It's about 10% less. Really, you can't tell very much. If you walk into the room, you wouldn't know. You can only do an A/B comparison, and again, without any scientific measuring equipment, I would say that it's about 10%. So, a success, yes. A little bit of work, yes. Will I convert more housings? Yes. Will I try maybe a different bracket? Possibly. Something that heat sinks into the housing. That I think would be the way to go here. Okay, so here you go. I'll just fire these up. And of course the camera's going to adjust its shutter and its exposure adjustment compensation here. But we'll just fire these. Aye! It's really bright. And then, you know, obviously you could use your original, yeah, so it's killer, you know. You can use your original switches there on the back of them. So really, really cool. And this room's torn apart right now because but you can see it's definitely does its thing. And you can, obviously you could take your, those grills that they have here to keep things from burning on the surface. You could take those off. You know, just be careful that your glass here is going to be subject to impact, which will be a bitch. See the rolling shutter there right now. So that's unprotected, but I like it because you can clean the lens easier. Also, you don't need your handles for the heat. It used to be like these handles, but you can definitely touch these. You can put your mouth right on that, even after, like I said, even after half an hour. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, this room's getting repainted. That's why. But yeah, and still they're just like, ouch. Yeah. There you go. So, the chips were $4 a piece. Shut that off. Rolling shutter. So $4 a piece. Way better than, you know, paying for a halogen bulb and having infrared lighting that you feel rather than see. So this is kind of cool. Just the spectrum that you need. I think I went with the regular straight up white, which gives a little bit tinge of blue. I may try, I think they make these same 50 watt LED lamps in warm white. I might try that just to give the nostalgic halogen feel. Okay, cool. Talk to you later. Bye.